I sat at the defendant's table in Family Courtroom 3B, while Vanessa's attorney described me as a confused old man living in a glorified shed. The gallery behind me was full 30, maybe 40 spectators, most of them country club friends who'd heard Vanessa's version at book clubs and tennis matches. They nodded along, lips pressed in that expression people make when they hear about someone's difficult elderly parent. Vanessa took the stand in a cream dress that cost more than my monthly pension. Her voice broke. She dabbed at her eyes with a folded tissue. "I find him wandering the property, disoriented," she said. "Last month he called me Margaret. That was my mother's name. She died 15 years ago." Her attorney leaned forward. "Miss Sterling, tell the court about the property arrangement." "My father gave me that land in 2012, Vanessa said. "Early inheritance. He wanted me to build there." Judge Patricia Morse reviewed documents with the standard judicial neutrality. Then she stopped, removed her reading glasses, studied my face. The courtroom went quiet. Someone in the gallery shifted in their seat. The sound carried. She picked up the military service documentation Ellen had submitted that morning. "Dr. Whitmore," Judge Morse said. "Colonel Whitmore, I should say." Vanessa's face drained of color. "I implemented your protocols in Kandahar in 2004, the judge continued. "Mass casualty event, 47 wounded in 90 minutes. Your triage system saved 43 of them." Judge Morse looked directly at me. I met her eyes, one nod. Acknowledgement, not agreement. Ellen reached for her briefcase. The accordion folder of lease agreements came out slowly, deliberately. "So when counsel suggests you lack cognitive capacity," Judge Morse said, "I find myself professionally skeptical of that assessment." Vanessa's attorney stood. "Your Honor, we need a recess. Quick pause in the story, tap subscribe, and let's dive back in." I sat at my table with the 3,000th piece of the Puccini puzzle between my fingers. Venice's Grand Canal spread across the surface, mostly complete except for a cluster of gondolas in the lower right quadrant. La Boheme played at low volume from the speaker on the kitchenette counter. Mimi's aria about her frozen hand, Act 1, measures 6378. The property deed lay beside the puzzle box. April 1998. Purchase price, $380,000. 47 acres with a manager's cottage, creek access, and valley views. Margaret had fallen in love with the moment our realtor brought us here. I'd retired from Walter Reed 3 months earlier with a full colonel's pension and 28 years of service documentation I rarely mentioned to anyone. Margaret spent 3 hours walking the property that first day. She paced out garden plots near the creek, sketched raised beds in her notebook. I found a clearing for my woodshop, measured dimensions for a lathe. We both wanted distance from the structured world of military medicine, room to breathe after decades of base housing and deployment separations. The piece in my hand had part of a gondolier's striped shirt. I pressed it into place. Click. Satisfying. Precise. Margaret died in 2009. Pancreatic cancer diagnosed at stage 4, gone within 6 months despite everything military medicine could deploy. I maintained the 47 acres alone after that, kept the paths clear, the fences repaired, paid the property taxes on time. Too much land for one person, but selling felt like betraying the dream we'd built together. My phone buzzed. I checked the screen. Dr. Okafor, Chief of Surgery at Regional Medical. "Boyd, sorry to call after hours," he said when I answered. "Got a complicated case I need your eyes on." "Send me the scans." 19-year-old, motorcycle accident, polytrauma. We stabilized the obvious injuries, but Something feels wrong. Labs are trending badly, and I can't pinpoint the source. I pulled my laptop across the table, slid the puzzle box to the corner. Venice's gondolas faced the wall. Give me an hour, last month. The consultation took 2 hours of systematic review. Splenic laceration the team had missed on initial imaging, obscured by rib shadows on standard views. I documented my findings, sent them to Okafor, and he took the kid back to surgery within 40 minutes. Saved his life, according to the follow-up text, Okafor sent the next morning. All of it logged in the hospital's electronic records. Time stamps, case notes, outcome tracking. Vanessa filed her guardianship petition 2 weeks after that consultation. She was 31 when she'd first asked to build here, newly married, eyes bright with plans. I fit another puzzle piece, part of a palazzo window. The 2012 lease agreement sat beneath the property deed. Single page, clear language drafted by Ellen Chu when Vanessa first approached me about building on the back corner. She'd been married to Trent for 6 months. His development company was posting quarterly growth numbers, pre-recession recovery. They needed their own place. She came to the guest house with architectural plans rolled under her arm. "Just the back corner, Dad," she'd said, standing in what would become the main estate's footprint. Spring afternoon, Margaret's garden markers still visible near the creek. We wouldn't be in your way. I saw a way to fix what I'd broken. If she lived 200 yards away instead of 40 miles, perhaps Sunday dinners would happen. Perhaps she'd stop by for coffee without texting first. All those relocations, all those times I deployed while she was young, all the resentment she'd carried about not having a normal hometown childhood. Proximity might fix what I'd broken. "We'll do it properly," I'd told her. "Annual lease, $1 per year. Keeps it clean for taxes. 30-day termination clause. Simple." Ellen had drafted the terms. I retained ownership. Vanessa signed acknowledgement that she claimed no property interest. Standard landlord-tenant arrangement despite the symbolic rent. Vanessa signed the 2012 lease without reading it. Tax formality, she'd said. Her focus was on the architectural plans spread across my kitchen table, the dream she and Trent had for floor-to-ceiling windows and an infinity pool. The construction noise carried to my guest house for 18 months. Cement trucks at 7 a.m., nail guns until dusk, $1.2 million financed through Trent's business credit lines, which were robust at the time. The mansion rose on the property's best hilltop, blocking my view of the Western Valley but giving her the showcase she wanted. 4,500 square feet. Outdoor kitchen, spa bathroom, custom everything. "You should move into the main house," she'd said when construction finished. "Ground floor suite, your own entrance. Much better than this old cottage." I declined, told her I valued independence, needed my own space. The truth was more calculated. I was testing whether she wanted me nearby or just wanted my assets accessible. I renovated the guest house instead, added accessibility features, updated the electrical, kept the modest footprint that had served property managers for 40 years. The first 3 years showed promise. Sunday dinners at Vanessa's table. Thanksgiving 2013, she laughed at my stories about training young surgeons who thought they knew everything. February 2004, she brought soup during flu, sat at my kitchen table for an hour talking about opening a yoga studio. A handmade birthday card in 2014. Watercolor flowers on the front, her handwriting inside wishing me health and happiness. I kept everything. Photographed the card before filing it. The journal tracked shifts. Weekly Sunday dinners became bi-weekly in March 2015. By September, monthly. Phone calls went unreturned, 2 days, then 4, then a week. When I mentioned the guesthouse water heater needed replacing, she sighed into the phone. I have actual responsibilities to manage, Dad. I replaced the water heater myself. YouTube tutorials, 3 afternoons of work, $1,847 in parts and tools. I kept the receipt. By 2016, the pattern was clear. Vanessa signed that year's lease renewal while on a phone call with her interior designer, barely glancing at the document. I had walked to the main house in March rain. I photographed each signed lease, filed them in sequence. 12 pages, 12 signatures, 12 annual acknowledgments that she was my tenant, not my owner. The erosion was gradual enough to rationalize, sharp enough to wound. Another puzzle piece. Part of the canal's water. Deep blue shading to green where sunlight hit. My relationship with Dr. Okafor remained constant throughout. I'd trained him as a resident in 1997. He'd frozen during his first solo bowel resection, hands shaking over the clamps. I talked him through it, one step at a time. By 1998, he was teaching the technique to incoming residents. He developed into one of the finest trauma surgeons I'd seen. He called me 3 to 4 times monthly now, complex cases requiring the diagnostic precision I'd spent decades refining. The polytrauma motorcycle case was typical. Multiple organ systems involved, the kind of clinical puzzle that separated competent surgeons from exceptional ones. I spent 2 hours reviewing every scan, every lab value, every nursing note, built a timeline of the patient's deteriorating condition, identified the pattern pointing to splenic injury despite negative initial imaging, wrote a detailed analysis, sent it at 23,047 according to my email timestamp. Okafor operated at 0115, found the laceration exactly where I'd predicted, repaired it. The kid walked out of the hospital 6 days later, all in the hospital's electronic system, legally required for teaching institutions. Evidence of sustained cognitive excellence. Evidence Vanessa apparently didn't know existed when she filed papers claiming I was senile and confused. I placed the final piece in the gondola cluster. The puzzle was complete. 3,000 pieces, 15 hours of work across 3 evenings while La Boheme cycled through its tragic arc. Tomorrow, I'd photograph it, add the image to the folder with 399 others. File it under Cognitive Documentation 2024. Then I'd box it up for the Veteran Rehabilitation Center downtown. Include a note about pattern recognition exercises. The same center where Margaret had volunteered before she got sick. I cleaned my reading glasses, filed the property deed and 2012 lease in their folder. The main estate's lights glowed on the hilltop 200 yards away, every window illuminated in the gathering dusk. 4,500 square feet. Every window glowing yellow against dark hills, like a cruise ship run aground on my property. Vanessa was home. Her car sat in the circular driveway, Trent's truck beside it. They were inside that showcase, probably unaware that 3 days ago I'd saved a teenager's life while they planned how to take my competence and my property in a single legal maneuver. I made jasmine tea. The scent reminded me of the base hospital in Okinawa, 1991. I returned to the table, opened my laptop. Ellen's email, Courtroom 3B, 9:00 a.m. continuation. Judge Morse presiding. The chess game was mapped now. Every move, every piece, every strategy in files they didn't know existed. They'd forgotten I spent 37 years teaching field surgeons that survival isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about systematic error correction. Identify the failure point. Document the cascade. Implement protocols so it never happens again. I'd applied the same principle to this family. The diagnosis was clear. Not dementia, not confusion. Systematic betrayal, executed over 12 years, in 12 signed leases and 300 consultations that proved my mind remained exactly what it had always been: precise, methodical, and unforgiving of errors. I opened the accordion folder and counted the lease agreements. 13 pages, one for each year from 2012 through 2024. Each March, I'd prepared the renewal, walked it to the main house, presented it to Vanessa. The early years involved actual conversation. 2012 through 2013, she'd invite me into the kitchen, offer coffee, read the document while asking about the guest house. Her signature at the bottom appeared deliberate, practiced. We'd discuss her yoga studio plans, Trent's latest development project, sometimes the weather. By 2014, the coffee offers became less frequent. She'd still read the lease, still sign it properly, but the conversation shortened. Surface pleasantries. How are you? Fine, thanks. Busy week ahead. I'd leave within 10 minutes instead of 30. 2005 marked the shift to pure formality. She signed while standing at her kitchen island, document reviewed in 90 seconds, no coffee, minimal eye contact. She was busy. The yoga studio was expanding. Trent's company was growing. Normal life pressures. I repeated these reasons each March. 2016 destroyed that rationalization. I walked to the main house on March 15th with the renewal in a protective folder. Morning sun hit the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the marble counters gleam. Vanessa stood near the refrigerator with her phone pressed to her ear, yoga pants, and a designer tank top that cost more than my monthly utilities. I held up the folder. She waved me toward the island without pausing her conversation. No, the credenza needs to be walnut, not oak, she said into the phone. I specifically said organic, modern, aesthetic. I placed the document on the marble. She glanced at it while her interior designer apparently argued about wood species. She grabbed a pen from the ceramic holder with her free hand. Just trust me on this, she told the phone. I know what works in the space. She signed without reading. 30 seconds, scrawled signature, pushed the paper back toward me while turning away. I picked up the lease. The guest house water heater is failing. I wanted to let you know before I arrange replacement. She sighed. Heavy, put upon, the sound people make when interrupted by something beneath their attention. Can't you just handle it? I have actual responsibilities here. The kitchen was silent for 3 seconds. She continued her phone conversation about credenza wood species. I folded the signed lease, placed it in my folder, left through the side door she'd waved me toward. Actual responsibilities. 37 years training combat surgeons apparently didn't qualify. I replaced the water heater myself. YouTube videos, 3 afternoons of work, parts ordered from a plumbing supply house 40 minutes away. Total cost $1,847. I filed the receipt in my financial records under Home Maintenance, Guest House 2016, photographed the installation for documentation. The 2017 renewal happened in her foyer. She didn't invite me past the entryway. Signed while checking her phone, something about her Instagram post engagement numbers. I noticed the account name on her screen, Van Azavib. Later that week, I looked it up. Professional photographs of the main estate, staged shots of her morning smoothie routine, designer athleisure laid out on the bed. 47,000 followers. Captions about blessed life and manifestation and gratitude for abundance. I scrolled through 6 months of posts, 0 photographs, including me. 0 mentions of family beyond vague references to her journey. I lived 200 yards away and didn't exist in her curated reality. The 2018 renewal took 90 seconds. She signed in her mudroom while her Pilates instructor waited in the driveway. No conversation. That November, I texted about Thanksgiving dinner. Her response came 4 hours later. Doing Friendsgiving this year, just our social circle, you understand. I spent November 22nd alone with a turkey sandwich and a 3,000-piece puzzle. Monet's Water Lilies. Completed it in 14 hours while La Boheme cycled through twice. The color gradients in the pond's surface required systematic sorting, blue-green pieces separated into micro-categories by shade variation. I photographed the finished puzzle at 2:00 a.m., boxed it for the Veterans Center downtown, went to bed. Financial pressure became visible in 2019. Summer evenings with windows open, I could hear arguments from the main house. Trent's voice carrying across the 200 yards, sharp and defensive. Vanessa responding with controlled fury. The words weren't clear, but the tone was. June brought her first loan request. Text message, casual. Hey Dad, property taxes came in higher than expected. Could you spot me 3AK? We'll pay you back next month. I transferred the money, marked it as gift, not loan in my records. She texted back 3 heart emojis. September, another request. 5,000 for unexpected repairs to the main house. Same promise about repayment. Same transfer on my end, same emoji response on hers. Neither payment materialized. December 15th, she called while I was reviewing a consultation case for Dr. Okafor. Subdued voice, careful phrasing. Trent's company needs a short-term bridge loan, $25,000, just until a project closes in February. The previous 2 loans sat unpaid in my records. Adding a third would establish willful exploitation, not temporary need. No, silence on the line. 3 seconds, 4, 5. Seriously? The previous loans weren't repaid. I'm not comfortable extending more. Those weren't loans. Those were help. This is different. This is Trent's business. Our future. My answer is no. She hung up. Text message arrived 6 minutes later. I should have known you'd choose money over your own daughter. I filed the text thread in a folder labeled Financial Requests, 2019, Screenshot, PDF backup, cloud storage. The 2020 renewal happened during COVID restrictions. Vanessa left the document on her front porch in a plastic sleeve with a pen. I signed, photographed it, left it for her collection. We didn't speak. 2021 and 2022 continued the pattern. Documents left outside, minimal contact, excuses about safety protocols that extended well past vaccine availability. I learned about her 40th birthday party through Instagram. 60 guests in the main house, catered dinner, string quartet on the patio. Posted photos showed decorations, designer dress, champagne tower. I drove to the main house that evening with a wrapped gift. Antique medical textbook from 1890, hand-illustrated anatomy plates. She'd mentioned wanting to study nursing when she was 16, before abandoning the idea for something less demanding. She answered the door in her party dress. Music and laughter spilled from behind her. "Oh, Dad, hi." I held out the gift. "Happy birthday." She took it, glanced back at her guests visible through the windows. "Thanks, that's really thoughtful." 30 seconds. No invitation inside. Party continued 20 feet away. She held the wrapped book against her hip. "I should get back. Thank you for this." The door closed. I walked to my truck, drove home. The gift appeared in her Instagram posts over the following months, still wrapped, visible in background shots of her entryway. Then it disappeared, donated or discarded. I never asked which. March 2023 brought severe thunderstorms. I walked to the main house through driving rain, document in a waterproof folder I'd prepared the night before. Water soaked through my jacket within 30 yards. Vanessa opened the mudroom door. Yoga clothes, dry hair pulled back, coffee mug in hand. "Oh, it's March already?" I handed her the folder. She opened it, pulled out the lease, signed while standing there. Rain drummed on the metal roof. 30 seconds, maybe less. She handed back the folder. "I have Pilates in 20 minutes. No offer of a towel. No invitation to wait out the storm. She closed the door. I walked back to the guest house through sheets of rain. Water ran down my neck, soaked through my shoes. The 200 yards took 5 minutes. Inside, I dried off, changed clothes, made tea, sat at my table with the signed lease. Something had shifted. The wound I'd carried for years felt different, clearer, clinical. That evening, I created a new file on my computer, competency documentation, started compiling records, hospital consultation logs from Dr. Okafor, financial statements showing meticulous account management, property tax receipts paid on time for 26 consecutive years, correspondence demonstrating sustained cognitive function. I wasn't preparing to forgive. I was preparing to prove. The accordion folder held 12 signed leases now. 12 annual acknowledgments that Vanessa claimed no ownership interest in property she apparently believed was hers. 12 pieces of evidence she'd created herself, one signature at a time. I photographed each document, uploaded them to cloud storage, created redundant backups. Outside, the main estate glowed on its hilltop. Every window bright, 4,500 square feet of showcase built on land she didn't own, financed with money she couldn't repay, populated with people who would never include the confused old man she claimed I'd become. I closed the accordion folder, filed it in my cabinet under legal documents, property, right next to the deed showing my name as sole owner since 1998. The chess game was mapped. Every move, every piece, every strategy and files they didn't know existed. They'd forgotten I spent decades teaching residents that competence isn't avoiding mistakes, it's systematic error correction. I'd identified the failure point, documented the cascade. Now I was implementing protocols so it wouldn't happen again. The diagnosis was clear. The puzzle piece was halfway to the table when the pain hit. Left side of my chest, crushing weight like someone had placed a concrete block on my sternum. 14:23, according to my watch. The piece fell from my fingers. Part of a Hokusai wave, 4,000 pieces, 200 left to complete. I pressed my left hand to my chest. The pain radiated up to my jaw. Classic presentation. Left anterior chest pain with jaw radiation, angina, possibly myocardial infarction. 37 years of cardiac training made the diagnosis automatic despite being my own patient. I reached for my phone, unlocked it, found Vanessa's contact, called. Straight to voicemail. Her voice, bright and measured, "Leave a message." I ended the call, texted instead. "Experiencing chest pain, need you to drive me to ER." Sent at 14:25. Read receipt appeared at 14:26. 3 dots indicating she was typing. Then nothing. The dots disappeared. I sat still on the screened porch, controlled my breathing. In through nose, out through mouth. Monitored the pain's progression. 7 out of 10 on the severity scale. Pressure, not sharp. No shortness of breath yet. Pulse steady at 82 beats per minute. I counted against my watch. 3 minutes passed. No response. I called again at 14:35. She answered on the 4th ring. Music in the background. Soft, instrumental, voices murmuring. Spa reception ambiance. "Dad, you do this every time I have plans." My breathing stayed controlled. "I'm experiencing chest pain. Left anterior, radiating to jaw. I need..." "It's anxiety. Take some Tums." "I'm in the middle of a hot stone massage I booked 6 weeks ago." The pain shifted slightly, spread across my chest wall. I checked my watch again. 14:36. The pain started at 14:23, I said. Left anterior chest, radiating to jaw. Classic presentation. "Your appointment was at 1500. Silence on the line. 2 seconds. 3. You made a choice. I ended the call, set the phone on the puzzle table. The incomplete gondolier stared up from the scattered pieces. Movement in the yard next door. Rita Palmieri stood from her tomato plants, soil on her knees, sun hat shading her face. She was looking at me through the screen. I must have been visible through the mesh, sitting too still, probably. Wrong posture for puzzle work. She approached the fence line. "You okay over there, Boyd?" I considered lying, decided against it. "Chest pain. My daughter is at the spa." Rita pulled her phone from her gardening apron. "I'm calling 911. That would be appropriate." She dialed, spoke in clear terms to the dispatcher. "I need an ambulance at 4782 Meadowbrook Road. My neighbor is experiencing chest pain. His daughter won't come home from her spa appointment." The dispatcher's voice was faint through Rita's phone. "Is the patient conscious?" "He's talking to me right now," Rita said. 71 years old. Chest pain. He needs help. 14:47. I noted the time. The dispatcher asked something else. Rita responded. "I tried." Goes straight to voicemail. She's at her usual spa, I think. The ambulance arrived in 12 minutes. Paramedics loaded me onto a gurney while Rita held my hand. Calluses pressed against my wrist. Onset at 14:23, I told the lead paramedic. Left anterior chest pain. Radiation to jaw. Severity 7 out of 10. No dyspnea. Pulse 82. The paramedic nodded. "You're a doctor? Retired surgeon?" "Well, doctor, we're taking good care of you." Rita climbed into the ambulance without asking permission. The paramedic didn't stop her. Regional Medical Center's emergency room smelled like pine cleaner cutting through the iron-copper smell of trauma bay 2 beds over. Fluorescent lights. Cardiac monitors beeping in adjacent bays. The attending physician ordered an EKG, troponin levels, cardiology consult. Dr. Okafor pushed through the ER curtain 20 minutes later. Still in scrubs from the OR, surgical cap pushed back on his head. He saw me in the bay, looked around the curtained space. "Where's Vanessa?" Rita spoke from the chair in the corner. "At her spa, receiving a hot stone massage." Okafor's expression hardened. He turned to the attending. "I'll coordinate with cardiology personally." The tests came back. Severe angina, 70% blockage in the left anterior descending artery. Not a myocardial infarction, but serious. The interventional cardiologist recommended immediate stent placement. Okafor stayed through the cardiac catheterization, made sure the best team handled the procedure, checked on Rita in the waiting room, brought her coffee and a sandwich from the cafeteria, gave her his personal cell number. The stent went in clean. I woke in recovery at 17:45 with Okafor reviewing my chart. "How do you feel?" "Functional." He smiled slightly. That's one way to describe it. Discharge paperwork came at 1900. Instructions for cardiac rehabilitation, medication list, follow-up appointments. Rita sat in the waiting room with her purse in her lap, ready to drive me home. Vanessa arrived at 1930. Designer athleisure wear. Lululemon set, porcelain colorway, matching tank top, hair damp from a post-massage shower. She walked to the discharge area where I sat ready to leave, nurse reviewing my medications. "Dad, oh my God, I came as soon as I could." The nurse looked up. Vanessa reached for me. "Let me take you home." "No." Rita already arranged transport. Vanessa's concern shifted, voice tightening. The doctor said it wasn't even a heart attack, just blockage. I met her eyes, steel gray to green. 37 years teaching residents how to deliver bad news with precision gave me the tools for this. I need you to listen because I will only explain this once. She went still. The pain started at 14:23, left anterior chest, radiating to jaw. Classic presentation. Your appointment was at 1500. I paused. Let it settle. You made a choice. I'm simply documenting it. The word hung between us. Documenting. She didn't understand what it meant yet. The weight it carried. The accordion folder back at the guest house with 12 years of her signatures. The consultation records proving my cognitive function. The timeline I'd noted in precise intervals throughout the afternoon. 14:23, 14:26, 14:35, 14:47, 19:30, all of it evidence now. Rita stood from her chair in the waiting room, picked up her purse, walked over. "Come on, Boyd. Let's get you home." Vanessa stepped back. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked at the nurse, at Rita, at me. I didn't say anything else. There was nothing left to explain. Rita helped me to the exit, through the automatic doors, into the parking lot where her sedan waited under the sodium lights. Behind us, Vanessa stood in the discharge area, still in her spa clothes, still holding her position for an audience that had moved on. The certified letter arrived 10 days after my hospital discharge. First Regional Bank, official letterhead, addressed to Boyd Whitmore, owner of parcel 47-30-39. I signed for it at the guest house door, carried it to my table, sat down with my reading glasses. The opening paragraph was standard banking language. Account verification, collateral confirmation, routine correspondence. The second paragraph stopped my hand. I set the letter flat on the table. Read it again. Removed my glasses. Property located at 4782 Meadowbrook Road, 47 acres, has been pledged as collateral for commercial loan 847cc 2024 to Sterling Development, LLC, in the amount of $850,000. Please confirm authorization and provide updated property appraisal within 30 days. I'd never authorized any loan, never signed any collateral agreement, never granted anyone power of attorney over my property. The accordion folder came out of the filing cabinet. I spread the contents across the table. Property deed, 12 annual leases, tax receipts, title insurance. No power of attorney documents. Nothing authorizing Trent or Vanessa to use my land for anything. I photographed the bank letter with my phone, created a new folder on my laptop, Financial Exploitation Evidence, uploaded the image. Then I opened the county recorder's website. The property search took 10 minutes. I entered my parcel number, reviewed the recorded documents. 3 recorded liens appeared on my property that I'd never authorized. First Regional Bank, $850,000, dated February 2024. Mountain Commerce Bank, $950,000, dated March 2023. Tri-County Credit Union, $500,000, dated September 2023. Total, $2.3 million in fraudulent loans using my property as collateral. Loans using my property as collateral. 14 months of systematic fraud. I submitted public records requests to all 3 banks and the county recorder. Copies of all loan documents, authorization paperwork, correspondence. The requests went out by certified mail that afternoon. The documents arrived 5 business days later. I spread them across my table in 3 separate piles, 1 per bank. Then I began the examination. Each loan file contained identical fraud. A document titled Limited Power of Attorney, supposedly granting Trent Sterling authority to encumber my property for business purposes. My signature appeared at the bottom of each one. I pulled out the 2024 lease agreement Vanessa had signed in March, set it beside the first Regional Power of Attorney. The signatures didn't match. Wrong pressure on the downstrokes. My W had a hook from my father's handwriting lessons when I was 8. The forgery's W was generic, rounded. Letter formation was wrong throughout. My capital B curved in a specific way from decades of signing hospital charts. The forged version showed someone pressing hard, uncertain. The Mountain Commerce document was worse. Someone had misspelled principal, writing principal in the legal text. I'd spent 37 years writing medical charts. My spelling was precise. I photographed each forged signature beside my actual one, created side-by-side comparison files with my phone, documented every discrepancy. The certified mail arrived on May 15th, County Superior Court return address. I signed for it, carried it inside. The petition was 12 pages. Guardianship filing, Vanessa Whitmore Sterling as petitioner, requesting full conservatorship over Boyd Whitmore due to advanced age and cognitive decline. I read the examples. Substandard housing, poor financial decisions, confused about family relationships, paranoid behavior regarding normal family assistance. Vanessa's declaration was attached. 3 pages describing how she'd found me wandering my own property, appearing lost. How I'd called her Margaret on multiple occasions, confusing her with my deceased wife. How I needed protection from myself. The strategy was clear now. If she obtained guardianship, she'd gain legal authority to ratify Trent's fraudulent loans. She could claim I'd granted permission but forgotten due to dementia. Then sell the property, pay off the $2.3 million, pocket the remaining equity, put me in a memory care facility. The chess game was fully visible. I sat at my table for 20 minutes. Then I picked up my phone and made one call. Ellen Chu answered on the second ring. Chu Law Offices. Ms. Chu, my name is Boyd Whitmore. I saw your advertisement at Regional Medical Center. Protecting those who served. How can I help you, Mr. Whitmore? I need legal representation. My daughter filed guardianship papers claiming I'm incompetent. She doesn't know I've been documenting everything for 3 years. She arrived the following morning at 9. Navy pantsuit, wire-rimmed glasses, overstuffed briefcase held together with duct tape. I offered Jasmine tea. She accepted. I set the 3-ring binder on the table before she sat down. When I opened it, she leaned forward slightly. Section 1, 12 lease agreements, Vanessa's signature on each annual renewal. Section 2, property deed and tax receipts. Section 3, bank letters about fraudulent collateral. Section 4, guardianship petition. Section 5, my copies of DD 214 and service records. Section 6, hospital consultation logs, 18 months of case reviews. Section 7, financial statements showing meticulous account management. Section 8, transcript of the 911 call from Rita Palmieri. Ellen spent 4 hours at my table. She photographed every exhibit, cross-referenced dates, made timeline notes in margins. When she finally looked up, her expression had shifted from professional neutrality to something else. She tapped the lease agreements. Your daughter signed 12 consecutive documents stating she claims no ownership interest in this property. She destroyed her own case before she filed it. That evening, she researched my military background, called the next morning. Colonel Whitmore, she said, I did some research last night. I'd like to take your case pro bono. As a matter of principle, I can pay standard rates. That's not necessary. You've served. This is a business transaction. I prefer to pay for excellence. Silence on the line. Then, understood. I'll send the engagement letter today. We spent 3 hours mapping strategy. Ellen took notes on a yellow legal pad, creating numbered lists. First, she said, we defend the guardianship by proving continued professional contribution. Dr. Okafor's testimony about consultation work. Hospital records showing cognitive excellence. I nodded. She continued. Second, we counterclaim for elder financial exploitation. The fraudulent loans, the medical emergency abandonment, the systematic isolation. What about criminal charges? Third, we coordinate with the district attorney on criminal fraud charges against Trent. 3 counts, 1 per forged loan document. She made another note. Fourth, we prepare 30-day lease termination notice. Once guardianship is defeated, Vanessa vacates the main estate. The evidence gathering starts immediately, Ellen said. I'll subpoena all bank loan files. Vanessa's financial records. Her Instagram posts showing lifestyle versus claimed caregiving burden. She made another note. I'll need the complete 911 recording. Not just the transcript. The spa background noise, the dispatcher's failed attempts to reach her. Rita Palmieri will provide a sworn statement. Good. I'll depose Dr. Okafor about your consultation work. Specific cases, outcomes, complexity level. The subpoenas went out over the next week. Documents arrived in waves. Bank records, financial statements, social media archives. Ellen organized everything in expanding folders, each exhibit tagged and cross-referenced. 2 weeks later, she returned to the guest house, Same overstuffed briefcase, now containing a banker's box. 400 pages, she said. Every piece of evidence we'll need. The loan files with forged signatures. Vanessa's bank statements showing insolvency. Instagram posts from the day you had chest pain, time-stamped at the spa. She pulled out a folder. Dr. Okafor's deposition. He testified about the polytrauma case you consulted on 3 days before she filed guardianship. Saved a 19-year-old's life with your diagnosis. Another folder, Rita's sworn statement, years of observed neglect, timeline of the medical emergency, her exact words to the 911 dispatcher. The evidence file sat on my table. 400 pages of documentation proving what I'd known for 3 years. Not dementia, not confusion. Systematic betrayal, executed methodically, documented completely. Ellen gathered her materials. The hearing is scheduled for June 18th. Judge Patricia Morse presiding. She has a reputation for thorough review and zero tolerance for exploitation. After she left, I opened the evidence file. Read through the organized exhibits, the tagged documents, the cross-referenced timeline she'd built from my raw materials. The transformation was complete. What I gathered alone in the guest house had become a legal weapon with institutional weight behind it. I closed the file. Made jasmine tea. Venice's gondolas waited on the puzzle table, half finished. June 18th, 2024, 8:47 a.m., I entered courtroom 3B 13 minutes early. 40 spectators filled the gallery when I took my seat. Country club members occupied the left side in expensive casual wear, expressions of practiced concern on their faces. The right side held veteran advocates Ellen had contacted. They sat with different posture, straight backs, hands folded, waiting. I took my seat at the defendant's table. Navy suit, white shirt, no tie. Ellen sat beside me with her briefcase, the duct tape patch visible on one corner where the seam had split. She'd organized everything into labeled folders, color-coded tabs. Vanessa sat 15 feet away at the plaintiff's table. Cream-sheathed dress, pearl earrings, designer handbag on the floor beside her chair. She'd positioned herself at an angle that let the gallery see her profile. Trent sat in the first row behind her, gray suit, red tie, college ring catching the fluorescent light. Judge Patricia Morse entered at 9 sharp. We stood. She took the bench, settled her robes, opened the case file. Vanessa's attorney stood, mid-50s, silver hair, 3-piece charcoal suit with hand-stitched lapels. He addressed the court with practiced sympathy. Your Honor, this case is about a daughter's love for her aging father. Ms. Sterling seeks guardianship, not from greed, but from genuine concern for a man who can no longer care for himself. He gestured toward me without looking. Colonel Whitmore lives in substandard housing, despite owning property worth over $2 million. He refuses assistance. He exhibits confusion about basic family relationships. This petition asks the court to protect him from decisions his declining mind can no longer make safely. The attorney presented Vanessa's declaration. 3 pages describing my alleged wandering, my supposed confusion. He showed photographs on the courtroom screen, my guest house. 800 square feet, simple porch, modest exterior. Then the main estate. 4,500 square feet, infinity pool, professional landscaping. A man of sound mind doesn't choose to live in a shed when he owns a mansion, the attorney said. This choice demonstrates impaired judgment requiring intervention. Gallery members nodded. I watched their faces. Concern, pity, agreement, Vanessa took the stand. Her voice caught. The words came out thin. I find him confused on the property, she said. Walking the paths like he doesn't know where he is. He forgets our conversations. He needs protection, Your Honor. I'm trying to help. Ellen stood, yellow legal pad in hand. 3 pages of highlighted questions. She approached the witness box. Miss Sterling, when did you last have dinner with your father? Color drained from Vanessa's cheeks. Her hand moved to her throat. We have dinner regularly. Please provide a specific date. I don't remember exactly. Maybe 2 months ago? Ellen turned to the evidence screen. Boyd's calendar appeared, entries in precise handwriting. She highlighted one date. According to your father's records, the last shared meal was Thanksgiving 2022, 19 months ago. Vanessa shifted in her seat. I meant we see each other regularly, not necessarily formal dinners. Ellen pulled up Instagram screenshots. Vanessa's account, Vanessa Vibe, dinner parties, holiday gatherings, elaborate table settings. Dates overlaid each image. December 2023, March 2024, May 2024. These are your posts over the past 19 months, Ellen said. 11 dinner parties at your home. Your father appears in none of them, despite living 200 yards away. Those were social events. Friends. Ellen changed the display. 13 lease agreements filled the screen, one for each year from 2012 through 2024, signatures visible at the bottom of each page. Mr. Sterling, can you identify these documents? Those are the annual leases. Tax formalities. Please read the highlighted section for the court. Vanessa's voice went flat. Tenant acknowledges no ownership interest in the property and claims no right to the land beyond the terms of this lease. You signed this document in March of this year? Yes, but everyone does that for family arrangements. My father gave me the land in 2012. Ellen turned to face her directly. Can you produce the deed transfer showing this gift? It was informal, a family understanding. So, to be clear, you've signed 12 consecutive annual documents stating you claim no ownership interest in property you now assert was given to you. Vanessa looked at Judge Morse. Your Honor, she's twisting this. It's complicated family arrangements, not formal legal matters. Judge Morse set her glasses on the bench. Answer the question, Ms. Sterling. I signed them, but my father told me the land was mine. Ellen pulled up new exhibits, bank letters on official letterhead. 3 separate institutions. These are notifications your father received about his property being pledged as collateral for loans totaling $2.3 million. She displayed the forged power of attorney documents beside Boyd's actual signature from the lease agreements. The forgeries were obvious on screen. Wrong pressure. Rounded letters where mine hooked. The word principal spelled wrong in the legal text. The woman in the second row, navy blazer and pearls, drew a sharp breath. Miss Sterling, did you know your husband pledged your father's property as collateral without authorization? Vanessa's eyes found Trent in the gallery. His jaw was clenched, knuckles white against the wooden bench. Trent handles the business finances. I don't know about the details. You co-signed these loan applications as corporate secretary of Sterling Development, LLC. I sign what Trent puts in front of me. I trust him. Judge Morse leaned forward. 15-minute recess. She disappeared through the private door to her chambers. The gallery murmured. Vanessa's attorney bent close, hand cupping his mouth. 3 whispered sentences. Her head shook twice, sharp jerks. Trent's jaw remained clenched. Ellen organized her notes. I sat still, hands folded on the table. Ellen checked her phone. Okafor would arrive at 10,005 after Vanessa's cross-examination. When Judge Morse returned, she carried my military service file. She settled into her chair, opened it, reviewed the first page. Then she looked at me, Dr. Whitmore, Colonel Whitmore, I should say. The courtroom went silent. I implemented your protocols in Kandahar in 2004. We had a mass casualty event, 47 wounded in 90 minutes. Your triage system meant we saved 43 of them. Vanessa's expression froze. So, when counsel suggests you lack cognitive capacity, Judge Morse continued, I find myself professionally skeptical of that assessment. I met her eyes, one nod. Colonel, would you describe your current professional activities? I stood. I provide consultation to regional medical centers' surgical department. Complex cases, 3 to 4 per month. Most recently, a 19-year-old motorcycle accident victim with polytrauma. The team missed a splenic laceration on initial imaging. My review identified the injury. They operated within 2 hours. The patient survived. The medical terminology came without effort. Decades of training. I continued. I also review protocol implementations for the residency program. Field triage adaptations for civilian trauma centers. The residents consult me on diagnostic challenges. Dr. Okafor entered through the courtroom doors at 10,005 exactly. Ellen had timed his arrival. He approached the witness stand when called. Dr. Okafor, how often does Colonel Whitmore consult on cases at your hospital? Monthly, sometimes more. We send him our most difficult presentations. Cases where standard workup hasn't revealed the pathology. Can you describe his cognitive function during these consultations? Okafor turned to face Judge Morse directly. The residents call him the diagnostic weapon. When we can't determine what's wrong, we call Colonel Whitmore. His analysis is consistently correct. His recommendations save lives. The woman who'd nodded sympathetically during Vanessa's testimony now stared at her hands. The man beside her shifted, creating distance. Judge Morse closed the service file. Thank you, Dr. Okafor. She looked at Vanessa, then at her attorney, then at the evidence displayed on the screen. 12 leases, forged signatures, bank letters, Instagram posts. This court will issue its ruling tomorrow morning at 9. We stood as she left the bench. Vanessa remained seated at her table. Her attorney gathered papers, movements sharp with tension. Trent stood in the gallery row, hands in his pockets, staring at nothing. Ellen packed her briefcase. Tomorrow we finish this. I met Ellen's eyes, one nod. I walked out of the courtroom into the hallway. The veteran advocates followed, several introducing themselves, shaking my hand. One had served in Afghanistan, recognized my name from training protocols. Behind me, Vanessa emerged with her attorney and Trent. The country club group surrounded them, voices low, questions forming. I didn't look back. Judge Morse's ruling took 4 minutes. Guardianship petition denied with prejudice. No evidence of cognitive impairment. Substantial evidence of financial exploitation. DA investigation ordered into fraudulent collateral worth $2.3 million. Court costs awarded to me. Vanessa gripped the table edge, knuckles white against the wood. Within 48 hours of the ruling, Ellen filed 3 separate actions. The first claimed elder financial exploitation against Vanessa and Trent jointly, seeking damages and legal fees. The second terminated Vanessa's lease with 30 days' notice, citing material breach of trust. The third sued for civil fraud, demanding punitive damages for systematic exploitation. The district attorney opened criminal investigation the same day. Trent faced 3 counts of forgery, 3 counts of fraud, 3 counts of theft by deception. 9 felony charges total, 1 set per fraudulent loan. Each count carried 2 to 7 years imprisonment. All 3 banks received notification that collateral had been pledged without authorization. First Regional Bank's fraud division called the loan at 9:03 a.m. Mountain Commerce followed at 10,047, Tri-County Credit Union at 2:15 p.m. Each institution demanded full balance due within 30 days per default clauses. Sterling Development LLC had $340,000 in assets. Equipment, incomplete inventory, projects half finished. The debt totaled $2.3 million, now called simultaneously. Trent attempted emergency refinancing. Word spread through the regional banking networks within 3 days. No institution would touch him. He filed business bankruptcy 2 weeks after the ruling. Personal assets became exposed through piercing the corporate veil. He'd used the LLC structure improperly, mixing business funds with personal accounts. The bankruptcy court determined he couldn't hide behind the corporate shield. Vanessa's social destruction happened faster than the legal proceedings. The courtroom testimony was public record. A local legal blog posted an article, "Daughter's Greed Meets Father's Military Legend." The piece included testimony excerpts and photographs of the forged signatures beside my actual ones. Instagram followers discovered the discrepancy between Vanessa's occasional devoted daughter posts and the courtroom evidence. 19 months without shared meals. The spa appointment during my chest pain. The 12 signed leases she'd dismissed as formalities. The comments section became evidence. Screenshots of her spa posts time-stamped during my cardiac event. Captions about blessed life beside news coverage of fraud charges. Each post archived, shared, weaponized. She locked the account to private settings within 2 days. Former followers who'd already saved her posts shared them widely. Locking the account came too late. The tennis invitations stopped Tuesday. Wednesday brought cancellation of the charity committee meeting she'd chaired for 3 years. Thursday, her usual lunch table at the club was occupied by others who didn't make eye contact when she approached. 30 days passed. Vanessa hadn't vacated the main estate. Ellen filed eviction proceedings in landlord-tenant court. The case was straightforward. Clear lease termination. Refusal to comply with notice. Sheriff's deputies served the papers on a Thursday afternoon. Vanessa was hosting her book club. 3 women remained from her former group, the only ones who hadn't heard about the trial yet. The doorbell interrupted their conversation. Vanessa answered. 2 deputies stood on the porch in uniform. One handed her the eviction order. Her face drained of color. She read the 10-day departure requirement while her book club watched through the floor-to-ceiling windows she'd insisted on during construction. The mansion she believed she owned required immediate vacation, $1.2 million in construction costs, $300,000 in furnishings. No compensation available. The lease stated improvements became property of the landowner. She'd signed this provision 12 consecutive years. Insurance wouldn't cover the loss. Civil legal matter, not insured event. Her financial exposure was total. Trent faced arraignment 3 weeks after the ruling. 9 felony counts presented by the district attorney. The prosecutor offered a plea bargain, plead guilty to 3 counts of fraud, serve 18 months, pay $47,000 restitution to cover my legal fees. The alternative was trial, 21-year maximum sentence if convicted on all counts. Trent's defense attorney spent 6 hours with the evidence files. Forensic signature analysis showed 9 points of deviation. Bank testimony documented the deception timeline. Digital metadata proved when documents were created. He advised accepting the plea at 4:47 p.m. The case was unwinnable. Trial would result in conviction and harsher sentencing. Trent considered fighting. His self-image required it. Successful businessman who made strategic decisions, not criminal who committed fraud. He accepted the plea. He began his sentence in county jail, awaiting transfer to state correctional facility. Trent's collection of 5 vintage cars, his visible proof of success, were seized by court order. Auction scheduled for partial restitution payment. Sterling Development's asset auction happened on a Wednesday. Industrial shelving, 2 forklifts, half-finished cabinet inventory. Total recovery, $340,000. Outstanding debt, $2.3 million. The math was simple. The cars sold for $89,000 total. The 1967 Mustang he'd restored himself brought $32,000. The Porsche he'd bought for his 40th birthday, $19,000. Each car sold for less than he'd invested. Mechanical precision turned into liquidation inventory. Vanessa filed for divorce while Trent was incarcerated. Her petition claimed she had no knowledge of his fraud despite signing loan documents as corporate secretary. Her divorce filing listed an attorney I'd never heard of. Small practice in a strip mall, the kind with free parking and laminated furniture. Not the white shoe firm she'd used for her yoga studio incorporation. By mid-August, Vanessa had relocated to a 900-square-foot apartment 20 miles from the country club area. Generic complex, cheap fixtures, neighbors she'd never socialized with before. The apartment complex had numbered parking spaces and a coin laundry. Her car, still the luxury model from better days, looked out of place between the decade-old sedans. She found work as a receptionist at a dental office. $16 per hour answering phones and scheduling appointments. The nursing degree she'd abandoned 20 years earlier might have provided better options. She'd chosen status over substance then. The consequence was quantifiable now. I reviewed Ellen's updates from my table in the guest house. Each document she forwarded showed another domino falling. Criminal sentencing, bankruptcy finalization, eviction completion, auction results. Over the following 3 weeks, the legal machinery ground forward. Bank investigations, DA interviews, document subpoenas. Not triumph, not vindication. Simply the piece of surgical precision applied to life's deepest wounds. Excising what was diseased, documenting everything for the record. The outcomes were inevitable once the diagnosis was clear. The $47,000 restitution payment arrived in my account 14 days later. I transferred it to Regional Medical Center that afternoon to establish an education fund in my wife's name. I moved into the main estate in February 2025, 8 months after Judge Morse's June ruling. Not triumph, practicality. My cardiologist recommended avoiding stairs after the stent placement. Cardiac rehabilitation required single-level living. The 4,500 square feet felt too large for one person. High ceilings carried Rita's voice through 3 rooms when she visited. When she left, the silence pressed back in. Rooms sat empty except when Rita Palmieri visited 3 times weekly, or when Dr. Okafor brought his wife and 3 children for Sunday dinners once a month. Their laughter-filled spaces Margaret would have loved, the kind where children asked endless questions and I answered each one. I converted Vanessa's she shed into a puzzle room. Proper lighting. Acoustics optimized for opera at comfortable volume. The infinity pool sat drained under a safety tarp. No use for it. The chef's kitchen with marble counters hosted my simple meals. Oatmeal, sandwiches, jasmine tea. The Margaret Whitmore Memorial Education Fund began distributing grants immediately. Annual stipends for residents studying trauma surgery. Dr. Okafor administered it. First recipient was a 28-year-old former Army medic, 3 tours in Afghanistan, now learning civilian surgical technique. Exactly the bridge I'd spent 37 years building. Ellen drafted my updated estate plan over 3 meetings. Upon my death, the 47 acres transfer to a charitable trust benefiting veteran medical education. The main estate becomes a residential training facility for combat medics transitioning to civilian healthcare. Up to 8 veteran residents annually, 40 over 5 years. Classroom space, clinical simulation labs. The guest house will be preserved as the Whitmore Archive. My puzzle photographs, service records, published articles. The accordion folder of 12 lease agreements as cautionary exhibits about family exploitation. Vanessa sent 1 letter 4 months after the ruling. Apology blaming Trent's influence. She'd written about boundary issues and his toxic influence. Professional words for personal failure. I read it twice, filed it without responding. During our quarterly review, Ellen paused over the trust documents. The estate plan was finalized, every clause precise. I was completing a 4,000-piece Hokusai puzzle, the Great Wave. Deep blue water frozen mid-crash. Pattern and chaos both. Closure was a civilian concept. In field medicine, you triage, you treat, you document. Some survive, some don't. You don't achieve closure. You achieve diagnosis and intervention. I'd done both. I placed another piece, part of the wave's crest. I diagnosed the relationship, I said. I intervened. The outcome is documented. Rita brought lemonade to the back porch that afternoon in the pitcher Margaret used for garden parties. Didn't ask if I wanted any, just set it down with 2 glasses. The same space Vanessa had used for Instagram photographs. Dr. Okafor's children played in the yard, supervised and loud with joy. Through the porch screens, 47 acres of valley oak turned golden. The same trees Margaret had sketched in her notebook that first day. The eyes that had witnessed combat field hospitals and family betrayal watched sunset over 47 acres that would serve veterans long after I was gone. No triumph in my expression, no bitterness either. Just the piece of surgical precision applied to life's deepest wounds. Excising what was diseased, preserving what was vital, documenting everything for those who follow.